Let us begin with a new chapter which deals with the study of oscillations. In this chapter, we will be dealing with three types of oscillations. One, which is already known to us, is the case of simple harmonic motion, where the body oscillates with a fixed amplitude. So, the amplitude doesn't change as time passes and the oscillations are sustained forever. That is the case of simple harmonic motion. In the next case, we introduce a damping force. So the damping force causes eventually the amplitude of the oscillation to decrease. So damping force is a dissipative force. So as a result of it, the energy of the system is dissipated to the surroundings and the amplitude goes on decreasing as the system keeps on oscillating, and eventually the system comes to rest, which is the equilibrium position of the system. In the third case, we are going to study what happens if we introduce some external force to stop this damping. So in that case, we can introduce a periodic force, that is a force applied to the system continuously with a constant period. Then the body will eventually start to oscillate with the frequency equal to that of the frequency of periodic force. So these are three typical cases which we will be discussing hereafter. So let us start our discussion with the simplest case, where we are dealing with simple harmonic motion. In order to study this, we will consider a simple ordinary spring, one end of which is connected to a rigid support, and to the other end we are going to connect a mass, some body, and suppose this spring is kept on a horizontal surface and this mass is free to oscillate along the x direction. We say when the system is in equilibrium, we say that the displacement of this mass is 0. So x is the coordinate which represents the displacement of the mass from its mean position, and in the case of equilibrium the value of x is 0. Now suppose we stretch the string by pulling the mass slightly away from its mean position or equilibrium position. As a result of it, a restoring force F, which is proportional to the displacement, is developed in the spring. That is, larger is the displacement from the mean position, larger will be the corresponding restoring force. Not only that, this restoring force is in the direction opposite to that of the displacement. So if the mass is displaced along the positive x direction, the corresponding restoring force will be directed along the negative x direction. So we can also put a minus sign here. Why is this force called as restoring force? Because it acts against the forces which are trying to displace the body from its mean position. That is, the forces which try to restore the position of this displaced mass back to its mean position. That is why it is called as restoring force. So in order to replace this proportionality sign, we will introduce a constant called as k. So k is just a constant of proportionality, which of course is going to be the property of the material of the spring. So k is decided by the material of which the spring is made up of. This k is hence called as spring constant. spring constant, since it is somehow related to the elastic property of the spring. We all know that this law, which says that this restoring force is equal to minus kx, is called as Hooke's law, and this force is sometimes called as Hooke's law force. Now, by Newton's law of motion, we know that F is mass times acceleration, and acceleration is second order derivative of displacement as a function of time. So F is equal to m d2x by dt squared. But in our case, this F is just equal to minus kx. So we get minus kx equal to m d2x by dt squared. This can be adjusted to write d2x by dt squared plus k by m is equal to 0 into x, of course, is equal to 0. Now both these quantities k, which is the spring constant, and m, which is the mass attached, are constants. So let us introduce another constant instead of them and call it as omega 0 squared. So let us say that k by m is equal to omega 0 squared. So this equation becomes d2x by dt squared plus omega 0 squared x is equal to 0. Now this is a second order differential equation which can be solved. If we see that if we choose x equal to some constant a times e raised to, or anyway, I omega t, or any constant phase can be added to the omega t, we see that dx by dt would give us a e raised to I omega t plus phi as it is into omega t plus phi, and d2x by dt squared would give us a e raised to I, of course into I we have to include, omega t plus phi. Just a minute, there is a slight correction. Since this phi is a constant, it need not be included. And we should not write it as t. So it is omega into I. So again we have omega I squared, since this is the second order derivative, and we will get another omega I term from it. So this is just equal to omega I squared into this quantity is nothing but our original x. So d2x by dt squared is giving us equal to omega I squared x. So this is omega squared. I squared is minus 1. Since I is square root of 1, I squared is minus 1. Just note that, into x. This can be rearranged. Since this is negative, it becomes positive when it comes on the left hand side. So plus omega square x is equal to 0, which is the original equation of motion for this spring mass system. You have already written here. Now we can hence claim that this proposed function of x is a solution to our differential equation. So the solution to this differential equation is in general a e raised to I omega t plus phi. Now we know from Euler's formula that e raised to I theta is cos theta plus I sin theta. So here the general solution becomes a cos omega t plus phi plus I sin omega t plus phi. So we can see that there are two possible trigonometric functions we can represent x. One is the real part of this expression, which is a cos omega t plus phi, and the other is the imaginary part of this expression, which is sin omega t plus phi. If this particular function is the solution, then the motion starts from one of the extreme points, and if the motion is represented by sine function, the motion starts from the origin. That is the only difference between cos and sine, because cos and sine functions have a phase difference of pi by 2. So we can accept one of these forms as the acceptable solution. So let us stick with a cos omega t plus phi. So what we get is this: x equal to a cos omega t plus phi as the solution to the original differential equation. So x, which is the position of the mass with respect to the mean position, is a sinusoidal function with frequency of oscillation equal to omega. Let us just write it as omega 0 because we are representing it here as omega 0 in our original equation. Omega 0 is nothing but the angular frequency, so which is equal to 2 pi by t or 2 pi n. T is the time period and n is the frequency. But we have substituted omega 0 as omega 0 squared equal to k by m. So omega 0 is going to be equal to under root k by m, which is equal to twice pi by t. So we get an expression for time period of oscillation in this case. It is equal to twice pi upon root of k by m, or t equal to twice pi root of m upon k. So this is the expression for period of oscillation for a spring mass system. Of course, it depends upon both these constants m and k. Now let us move ahead and see what is the relation between the circular motion and simple harmonic motion. There has to be a connection between these two. Just imagine that there is a particle performing circular motion in anti-clockwise manner. Suppose this is the origin of the circle or the center of the circle, and let us say that particle starts from a random point called A. Now we can draw a position vector. Let us say that, so let us just label this point by some other letter, say letter P. Let this angle be equal to phi. After some time t, this particle moves from point P to some further point along the path, say Q. And this particle, since it is performing uniform circular motion, it takes equal amount of time to complete an entire revolution. So its period is constant, or in other words, its angular velocity is constant. Now, since it has reached point Q, let us say that the corresponding displacement is theta, and the angular velocity, as we have said, is say omega 0. So we can define theta, we can define theta as omega times t on the analogy that velocity is displacement upon time, says displacement is equal to velocity into time if velocity is constant. So instead of linear displacement, we are saying it here as angular displacement. Instead of linear velocity, we are introducing angular velocity into t. So yes, this is the expression for theta. Now let us explore this situation using trigonometry. Let us say that capital A is the radius of the circle. So A is the radius of the circle. So this point Q is at a distance A from the origin. If we resolve this along the x and y axis, note that now this complete angle, call it as some theta, instead of this, now we have to represent this entire angle as theta. So let us say this as some theta dash. So this is just theta dash, that is just change of notation. Since this complete angle is theta, we know that this theta is just theta dash added with that constant angle phi. So theta is omega 0 t plus phi. That should be noted. Now this can be resolved along the two axes x and y respectively. And this particular component along x axis is going to be just a cos theta, and the component along y is going to be a sin theta. So x component is a cos theta and y component is a sin theta. If we use this value of theta, what we get is a cos omega 0 t plus phi and y equal to a sin omega 0 t plus phi. So we can see that both x and y coordinates of the particle performing circular motion are following the equation of simple harmonic motion. So what does that mean? In technical words, we say that the projection of a particle performing uniform circular motion on both x and y axis is simple harmonic motion. This can be visualized if we look at the particle performing circular motion by sideways. If we flip this and see by sitting on a side, we can see that the particle keeps on oscillating between two fixed extrema, say minus a to plus a, though it is actually performing circular motion when it is seen from above or from the top. So that is the relation between circular motion or uniform circular motion and simple harmonic motion. Let us extend this to a system of two bodies. Let us say having a same mass m connected by a spring. Let us say that k is the spring constant as we have already defined it. Now just for the simplicity of derivation, we are assuming the masses to be equal, but in general we can write them as m1 and m2. This position, let us fix a reference called x equal to 0 in order to measure the distances of these two masses. Let us say that mass m1 is situated at a distance x1, mass m2 is situated at a distance x2 from this reference position. Let us further assume that L is the length of the spring when it is in equilibrium. So we can straight away see that this x2 difference x1 is going to be equal to L. So this is the case when the system is in equilibrium. Now let us assume that one of these two masses is slightly displaced from the main position in a given direction. Accordingly, the values of x1 and x2 are going to change. Not only that, since the masses are pulled, the spring is going to extend in length. By say a value x. So x is just the extension in length of the spring. Extension in length of the spring. So in other words, we say that instead of L being the length of the spring, now the new length is just L plus x. So instead of this equation, now we must write x2 minus x1 to be equal to L plus x. Note that this L is a constant because it represents the undisplaced length of the spring. Let us say this as equation number 1. Now we can write the similar equations which we have already discussed for both the masses. So for m1 we can write m, and for m2 as well we can write. So we see that this mass m2 is displaced towards the right. So this is similar to the previous case. So for m2 we should write m d2 x2 by dt squared, let us say it as m2, is equal to minus kx2. We are just using the subscript 2 so that we know that it is the equation for mass m2. Now for mass m1, this force which was k times x2 with a minus sign for this particular mass is going to be plus k times x1, since it has to be equal and opposite to the other force. So for mass m1 we should write m1 d2 x1 by dt squared is equal to plus kx1. So these are the two equations for the two masses. Now somehow we have to combine these two equations in order to reduce the complexity of the problem. So let us try multiplying this equation 1 by m2 and multiplying this equation 2 by m1. So what we get is m1 m2 d2 x1 by dt squared is equal to k m2 x1 and m1 m2 d2 x2 by dt squared equal to minus k m1 x2. Now we are going to subtract equation 3 from equation 4. On the left hand side we get m1 m2 as common with d2 by dt squared into this x2 minus this x1, which is equal to, on the right hand side we get minus k m1 x2 minus k m2 x1. Now there is a slight correction, because though we are saying that these are x1 and x2, we see that the amount of displacement of mass m1 is say x1 and displacement of mass m2 is say x2, they must be displaced through equal amount of or magnitude of displacement, and which is going to be equal to x, because we have already defined x as the extension of the spring. So both of these masses are going to displace from their mean positions or equilibrium positions by the same amount equal to the extension brought in the string or the spring. So we see that this km1x minus km2x can be further, so we are going to replace x2 and x1 by the same quantity x, so which is equal to minus kx into m1 plus m2. Now we see that we can adjust another term here inside the derivative, x2 minus x1 minus L. We can do so since the derivative of L with respect to t is going to be 0, since L is constant. So it doesn't matter even if we subtract this term from x2 minus x1. And if we look at the equation which is written here as equation number 1, x2 minus x1 is just L plus x. So x2 minus x1 minus L is nothing but x. So let us write x instead of this entire term. So we get m1 m2 d2x by dt squared is equal to m1 plus m2 times minus kx. Now we can adjust this equation further and write it as d2x by dt squared is equal to m1 plus m2 upon m1 m2 times minus kx. This can also be written as d2x by dt squared. So let us shift this entire term on the left hand side so that it becomes plus. So we get a k, and this which is getting multiplied to this kx can be written as k divided by m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2 times x is equal to 0. Now let us look at this equation. Anyway, both m1 and m2 are fixed. So let us denote this quantity m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2, which is already having the dimensions of mass. So let us call it as mu, which is typically called as reduced mass of the system. So this is just a constant which can be written as mu and called as reduced mass, gives us the equation in a much more simplified form as d2x by dt squared plus k by mu times x is equal to 0. So this is again an equation of simple harmonic motion. What does that mean? One advantage of doing such rearrangement is that now this two body problem is just reduced to one body problem. So we are replacing this system of two masses m1 and m2 connected to a spring with spring constant k by a single body of mass mu connected to a spring of spring constant k oscillating by performing a simple harmonic motion. So this system is as good as this system. So if we want to find out the period of oscillation, which is given by omega equal to 2 pi t, and we are going to substitute now for this k by mu as omega squared. So this becomes omega equal to root of k by mu. So this is root of k by mu. So it gives us t equal to twice pi under root mu by k. So this is going to be the period of oscillations for two masses m1 and m2 connected through a simple spring having spring constant k. Thank you.